Good Wednesday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty of things happening with the Browns out in Berea. A little later in the show, we will be joined by Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. We'll talk plenty of Browns getting ready to head down to Foxborough to face Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Also some news out of Berea. Not practicing today, Myles Garrett, Malik Jackson, Jarvis Landry, Tack McKinley. Kevin Stefanski did say he's optimistic all will be available at some point during the week and hopefully for Sunday during the game. Jadeveon Clowney did practice in a limited fashion. Also, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of practice saying that name. He was activated off the IR and practicing as well. A good sign. They're going to see how things go the next couple of days. The Browns may have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah available for Sunday, still to be determined. Let's welcome in Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Hayden, we've talked about him. How big of a lift do you think it would be if JOK can in fact go Sunday against Patriots?
It would be a huge lift. I mean, this getting healthier week by week. I think you're looking at, I think, as you said, most of those guys are going to be healthy come Sunday in regards to Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and Tack McKinley and all those guys. So they're a pretty full unit defensively right now. And that's what you need. And that's, again, I've talked a lot about, the Browns not having to face a mobile quarterback. Well, this week and last week, they're not having to do that. They're not going to have to face a mobile quarterback in Mac Jones. So makes Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah's job a lot easier when he's as fast as he is to get to the quarterback like Mac Jones. So I'm looking forward to seeing JOK back out there after a stellar start to his rookie year. And it would give them a boost. Sure. Anytime you can add speed on that defense, I think it'll help. So that's exactly what they're going to do with JOK.
All right. Some other news, and we'll get to Joel Bitonio signing a 3-year extension. So he's got the 1 year remaining, 3 more. He's here for long term. Also some news as far as the running back situation goes. The Browns brought in a couple of guys with NFL experience, Brian Hill, Dexter Williams. Brian Hill, wearing 48, is a guy who has about 200 carries in the NFL, averages 4.7 yards per carry, mostly with the Atlanta Falcons, some with the Cincinnati Bengals. Those two guys are important because right now, D'Ernest Johnson, the only healthy running back. Nick Harris was placed on the COVID-19 list today. Nick Chubb, Demetric Felton yesterday, John Kelly the day before, a couple of other practice players. So there's 5-6 guys from the Browns on that COVID-19 list. That means there's extended protocol that goes into it. Kevin Stefanski talked about getting ready for the Patriots with the running back situation the way it is right now. D'Ernest Johnson would be the lead back if Nick Chubb and Demetric Felton can't get ready to go for the Patriots on Sunday.
We'll see in terms of their ability or availability, excuse me. We, as you guys know the rules, we'll see how this week goes, if we can get them back or not. If they're unable to make it to the game, D'Ernest Johnson obviously is our starter in that scenario. And then we have some other options that we're going to look at this week. Okay, we've kind of talked about over the years that guys have to step up. We talked about it going back to that Denver game with D'Ernest, and he did. His role for us moving forward is somebody that we're going to count on, and he works very hard.
So Hayden, again, Chubb and Felton are both vaccinated. That means they need to produce 2 negative tests 24 hours apart to be eligible to go. You do the math, there's still a couple of days that are available, but Browns feel pretty confident, as they should. I mean, the Broncos were a pretty good defense, and D'Ernest Johnson was successful running the football against them.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but when you have an offensive line like the Browns have, I mean, I could be the running back and do a good job. Obviously, that's a joke. I think D'Ernest Johnson is a very good back, but I think having the offensive line that you have and getting the push that they can get up front, it just makes the job of any running back easier. So, I think it's disappointing that they're not going to have likely not going to have Nick Chubb, John Kelly, or Demetric Felton in this game. But you're right. We've seen it from D'Ernest Johnson before, and we will. I think that when you look at the Cleveland Browns, you look at what they do best. They run the football, and I think that the Patriots are going to look to take that away. But also, again, this game is going to be on Baker Mayfield too. It's going to be on the offense as well. I mean, again, everybody's got to step up and do their job. I think Dearness Johnson can do a fine job running the football. We saw it against Denver, but I think they're going to have to pass the ball well in this game as well to have a good chance of winning.
So you do have Brian Hill, who, again, pretty good running back with some success in the NFL. Reports were the Browns also tried to claim Royce Freeman off the waiver wire. Claim was put in by the Houston Texans, who got him because their record is worse. So all that handles the running back situation. Now some good news. Andrew Berry just continues to be busy out there locking up important pieces. Yesterday it was guard Wyatt Teller, 4-year contract extension. This year it's Joel Bitonio. Had 1 year left on his deal, 3-year extension, $48 million. So $16 million a year. That makes him the highest paid guard in the NFL by a little bit over Joe Thuney. He becomes the first Brown since 1999 to get a third contract from the team. So congratulations to Joel Bitonio. And take a look at the quote from Andrew Berry. After last season, we decided one of our major football priorities would be to make sure Joel Bitonio was a Brown for the rest of his career. And Hayden Grove, again, he is getting it done on the field along with Wyatt Teller. That forms a really nice interior of this offensive line. So Bitonio and Teller here until 2025 with the extensions the last 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the basis of any good football team offensively, and you have a solid offensive line. And the Browns have definitely developed into one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in football. And Joel Bitonio has been there. He was there with Joe Thomas. He's been there now with the current group, but he's been the leader of that group. So Joel Bitonio is well deserving of that honor. I think he's playing some of his best football right now. And he's getting helped out by a great offensive line around him. They work in tandem. They're a team. That's what I think Andrew Berry's trying to instill here is, hey, that we got a good unit. As long as we can have our left guard and our right guard ready to go. Jedrick Wills is signed, I think, through probably 2025 as well. And then Jack Conklin signed for another year after this one. So they got a good unit. They're going to be there together for a long time, and that's exactly what you want to see. But Joel Bitonio has been a complete professional. He's been a Pro Bowler. He's been an all-pro guy, off the field, on the field, everything that exemplifies what the Browns want to be, as Andrew Berry said. And it couldn't happen to a better guy, both he and Wyatt Teller. Yeah,
so Wills is through 24, but they do have that 5th-year option because he's a first-round pick. So, yeah, they team control, if you will, through 2025. Those are 3 huge young pieces that are really talented. Well, Baker Mayfield talked about as well as Kevin Stefanski, both Baker and Kevin Stefanski talked about the extensions of Bitonio and Teller and just how important they are to this Browns offense.
First, I'd like to say congratulations to both of them. I already told them that in person, but 2 extremely deserving guys of those extensions, and they deserve that. I mean, they protect me, they protect all of our guys. They're team first guys. Joel's obviously been the consistent guy here for a long time, and Wyatt's for the past few years. And so we're very happy to have them extended, obviously, but that changes nothing with me. I'm still trying to just find a way to win games, and everything else will take care of itself.
Andrew's making decisions on a case-by-case basis. The guys you just mentioned are all good football players. I know it's easy to say it's the run game, but they're good football players. They're good in the run. They're good in the pass. Yeah, I think we're able to do multiple things. There's a multiplicity to our offense based on the personnel. And that's what we have to do as coaches is put these guys in position to succeed and not ask them to do something they can't do. And with those 2 guys in particular, there's multiple things they can do. They can pull, they can gap scheme, they can zone scheme. So that's obviously helps us from a versatility standpoint.
And we've touched on it a lot, Hayden. That offensive line is key. And those guards, everybody kind of focuses on the tackles because they protect the blind side. When you have guards like Bitonio and Teller who can get out and knock people out of the way, see the 70-yard run by Nick Chubb as to what a pulling guard can do and mean to a run offense.
Yeah, they both do an exceptional job of moving their feet. They're both very strong up front. As Kevin Stefanski said, they can both gap in zone in the run game. They're both good pass protectors as well. I think Wyatt struggled a little bit at times, and Joel maybe too. I think it's a tough thing to do. But regardless, I think that both those guys open up a really, really, really effective, really, big holes for these running backs, and it makes this Browns run game really, really effective. Doesn't matter who's in there. Again, if you see Joel Bitonio rolling right or Wyatt Teller rolling left, you know that this is about to be trouble. So that's the Browns do well. Anytime you see 75 and 77 on their feet, rolling, moving, you know that good things are happening. And like I said, they do a good job in the run game. They do a good job in the pass game as well. But I think specifically as run guys, they're two of the best in the business, no doubt.
Yep, two of the three highest ranked according to Pro Football Focus, and they're going to be with the Browns through 2025. Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we turn our attention a little bit to Baker Mayfield, getting ready for the Patriots, how he looked against the Bengals. Is he starting to feel more and more comfortable? We'll also take a look at Pro Football Focus highest graded Browns through this point in the season. We'll tell you who they are when Sports4CLE returns. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready to head to Foxborough, Massachusetts to face Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Baker Mayfield played pretty well against the Bengals, throwing the football, probably his best game of the season throwing the football, most efficient at least. Both Baker and Kevin Stefanski talked about the look and the feel that it appears Baker is starting to feel more comfortable with that shoulder harness on, protecting his non-throwing shoulder.
I'd definitely say there's more comfort with that on. And just as the weeks go on, it's going to continue to hopefully improve each day with the rehab and everything that we're doing here. So, yeah, more comfortable with that and just trusting those guys downfield as well.
Just in my discussions with him, he's comfortable with the harness, has been. But like anything, you'd imagine that he gets more comfortable over time.
Right. In terms of his decision-making, Kevin, on Sunday, what did you like most about what Baker did?
Yeah, I thought he made quick decisions. I think he saw it clearly, which I think is important for quarterbacks to see it, and especially when teams are trying to disguise whether pressure or coverage. So I think he saw it clearly and got through his progressions quickly.
And Hayden Grove, when you look at that game against the Bengals, I think there was one bad throw that he had. Completions to 8 different receivers, spread it around, hit a couple downfield. When Baker Mayfield is playing at that level, this Browns team's hard to beat.
They are, especially when you run the football the way they run the football. And Baker's job is not to throw the ball 40 times a game. It's not to be like these other quarterbacks. Like, we compare Baker Mayfield to Patrick Mahomes, we compare him to Josh Allen, we compare him to Aaron Rodgers. And those guys are throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. I mean, they have a different offense. Baker Mayfield's job is to, when his number is called, to make an accurate throw, to make an accurate decision. I think one of the biggest stats this year for Baker Mayfield specifically, 3 interceptions in 8 games. I think that's a very, very big sign of maturity. I think that's a sign that he's knowing what to do with the football, knowing where to go with the football. And again, I really, really like the fact that when his number is called, he's ready to go. And I think that now that Odell's gone, I think you're going to see the offense open up, continue to open up, like you kind of saw against the Bengals, where the offense was efficient, but he still threw for over 200 yards and had 2 touchdowns. So that's what you want to see from a guy like Baker Mayfield. You don't necessarily need to see, the 350-yard game, because that's not what they do. They want to be 250, 250. They want to run the ball, or maybe 250, 150. But they want to run the ball for, over 100 yards, and they want to throw the ball for over 100 yards. And sometimes when you look at the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, they're throwing the ball 50 times, and they're, it's 75% of their snaps. So, and they're only running the ball for, 30 yards of play. So Baker Mayfield has a great command of this offense. I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do to put them in a position to win. And that goes with keeping the ball in the Browns' hands. It goes with, making the smart reads and getting the ball down the field. I think they're going to do a better job of that going forward.
So let's take a look at the highest graded Browns according to Pro Football Focus, analytics-driven website, through 9 games. Top one, Myles Garrett, 91.9. Then you got Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio, the 2 guys that Andrew Berry just extended. One at 88.7, that's Bitonio, 89.8 for Wyatt Teller. You see the rookie, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who came off the IR. Denzel Ward, David Njoku, those are all young guys. But the point that I see when I look at this, Hayden, top 3 graded players, all graded extremely high, are offensive and defensive linemen. The old saying is you win up front. So if those guys are playing at a high level, it's good things for the Browns.
Yeah, absolutely. If the offensive line and defensive line are playing at a high level, it's good things. You're right, and they've done that. Myles Garrett has 12 sacks this year, leads the NFL. Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio and that whole offensive front are opening up the Browns' running game to have the best running game in the NFL, which they do. So they've done really good on both sides of the ball. I think that you're starting to see that, continue to show itself. Defensively, there's been a lot more issues with the secondary, but they're seeming to start to play well now. So, the momentum is good, and those grades are good. And, David Njoku's had a really kind of under the radar year, but he's had a good year as well. So you like what you see out of those rankings. And, it's when you look especially at Wyatt and Joel, I mean, again, those are kind of your anchors on that offensive line. So you got them for a while to come. And that's a great news for Baker Mayfield, great news for Nick Chubb, and great news for that for the run game as a whole.
So Denzel Ward is a guy who has really flashed late. He had a little bit of a rough start to the year, I think. Was banged up, but you see him tied for 5th with Njoku, almost 80 on that ranking. Now, when you look at Denzel Ward, a 35.8 passer rating allowed when targeted in man-to-man coverage. Tops, that's number 1. First, in man-to-man coverage, he has the lowest passer rating allowed in the NFL. Again, that lock there is the sign of a lockdown corner, and that passer rating in man-to-man coverage would tell you that. When people kind of look and say, well, Ward got beat here, Ward got beat, it's usually in his zone coverage. He is that good, and I think that might be one of the tweaks that we saw against the Bengals in that secondary, and that might be one of the tweaks we see from that mini bye, is kind of unleashing Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward more in man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, they've both shown an innate ability to cover in man-to-man, and I think that makes things easier for everyone else around them. If you can lock up your guy and just being in man-to-man coverage, that leaves 9 other guys to cover, a lot of other players. So I think Denzel had the best game of his career on Sunday. I think it was a huge, huge moment for him. one the Browns fans have been waiting to see for a while, because Denzel, you're right, he kind of had a slow start, and the injuries have always been an issue with him, but when he's on the field, he's been very good. And that's why it was kind of weird this year to see him on the field and maybe not performing up to the caliber that we expected. But all of a sudden, boom, he comes out and has the best game of his career. Maybe he was given more. Maybe he was given just he was given the assignment to be like, okay, you get Jamar Chase, Denzel. You're gonna win this game for us. You're gonna lose this game for us. And he absolutely won it. He won it big time. Joe Burrow could not get to Jamar Chase at all. And when he did, Denzel Ward was right there to kind of make a play on the ball. So Denzel was fantastic. And you want to see that going forward. Again, you hope he's healthy going forward. I mean, that's been his biggest issue, because when he's on the field, he's a great, great football player.
Yeah. So the Browns defense played really well against the Bengals. And when you take into account how explosive the Bengals offense has been, it's probably, I would say that's their best performance defensively this year, just because of how good that Bengals offense, especially the passing game, can be. Anthony Walker today talked about taking that next step as a defense and what the Browns unit wants to see from themselves moving forward.
Great game plan from Coach Woods, and the guys is executing. No matter what the call was, I think we executed the best we've had all year. Whether that was zone, man, pressure, whatever it was, rushing, cover, working together, and being able to stop the run for the most part in that game. I think we all understood that we've played solid defense, but like I said, to take that next step, it all has to come together, and what a perfect time for it to come together. So we're looking to build on that and keep moving forward.
And Hayden, what do you need to it seemed to me like they were more aggressive. I don't know if that's the correct term, but they were kind of in the Bengals' face, and I'd like to see more of that. I liked what I saw from the defense, that style.
Yeah, Dave, we've talked about this. They can be aggressive against a quarterback like Joe Burrow, and they were, and you love to see it. I think you're going to see a lot of the same thing this week against Mac Jones. I think that because Mac Jones is not mobile whatsoever, you're going to be able to get to him. So I think they're going to continue to be aggressive. Same thing against Jared Goff that next week against the Lions. And then you get to start to face Lamar Jackson, with the hell of a challenge in and of itself. Then you got to completely flip the script. But for these next three games, you've got to get after the quarterback. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. I think they were more aggressive. They played man coverage. They blitzed a lot more. And again, the results showed for themselves. I think that's where this Browns defense is going to be its best, when it's playing man coverage, when it's getting to the quarterback. The difference is, they've played some really good quarterbacks that they can't, couldn't do that against. Well, now against Mac Jones, you got to do that. Now against Jared Goff, you have to do that. You did it against Joe Burrow. I didn't think they did it enough against Big Ben, but maybe Big Ben is a little more heady, a little more smart getting rid of the football these days, just because he is such a great veteran. But Mac Jones is a rookie. I want to see them pin their ears back, be aggressive, and get after the quarterback again. Troy Hill had 2.5, 3 sacks in that game. I want to see some pressures coming from all over. You're going to get JOK back. He's definitely going to make an impact. I'm looking forward to seeing them get after Mac Jones.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's fun to watch that defense with the talent that they have when they're aggressive. Hayden Grove and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, what we know, what we don't know, and a record prediction for the Browns is from ESPN.com. That's straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. 5-4 Browns getting ready to face the 5-4 Patriots. An important game as far as the AFC playoff picture goes. Mike Greenberg from ESPN on if the Browns are still Super Bowl contenders in his mind without Odell Beckham.
But are they a Super Bowl contender without Odell Beckham?
Yes, I think they are. I think part of their struggles this year, part of how incredibly bad they've looked, has been that they were banged up. I mean, they were startlingly hurt. And remember, they're playing games without either of their running backs and the offensive tackles. They're getting back healthy. They are better without OBJ. That is unquestionable. And the quarterback is better. And if Nick Chubb is healthy and Kareem Hunt comes back healthy, the season is long. I picked the Browns to go to the Super Bowl before the season. And as of right now, in an AFC where nothing really makes sense, I'm good with that. I'm good with that pick right now.
And Hayden, when you look at it, the caveat is if Nick Chubb is healthy, and we don't know. We hope that it's that he's back in there and on Sunday, or that the COVID list is not huge detriment. The Browns need Nick Chubb. I don't think there's a more important piece to this offense than Nick Chubb.
No, I don't believe so either. That's the guy that's going to make it go. And if you don't have him, at the same time, you look at Dearness Johnson and what he's been able to do. I mean, it's been pretty damn good. So it's tough to say that one running back is better than the other. But I think I get, if you're saying the more important individual piece, yeah, I would say probably Nick Chubb, followed closely behind by Baker Mayfield. But that offensive line is, I think, the most important cog for the Browns, just because they do everything. They open up everything for the run game. They open up everything for the passing game. They do everything for the Cleveland Browns. So Nick Chubb, no, you're right. He is not a guy that you want to miss at all. The Browns might be without him this Sunday. And it's, that's unfortunate, but that being said, again, this offensive line, I think, is the most important part of this team. And I think they can open up and do things for this run game, no matter who's back there, especially this weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't think Nick Chubb, if Nick Chubb is out for an extended period of time, it's a little bit bigger of a challenge. All right, what we know, what we don't know, and a final record position. These are all from ESPN.com. What we know: the Browns are probably better off without wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., and they point to the 41-16 win against the Bengals a week ago. Baker Mayfield played his sharpest game. Nick Chubb was kind of the guy that everybody expected him to be, and I can't argue with that. Look at last year if you want more evidence. And I was one of the guys that said it doesn't make sense to say you're better without a guy of that caliber, but the games, and you are what games you win, and right now the Browns win more without Odell Beckham. So
yeah, they shouldn't have been. I mean, on paper they shouldn't have been better without Odell, but when you watch the games and you look at the offense and how it works, they are much better without Odell. I mean, it's weird. I don't know how to explain it, but it's tough. I do know how to explain it to an extent. I mean, Kevin Stefanski, runs a power run scheme, and they run the football, and they don't look for their wide receivers that much. I mean, Baker Mayfield's job is not to target one guy. It's to look all over the field. I told people before this season that outside of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, I would not look to any of the Browns receivers in fantasy. I don't think that's how it works. Their offense doesn't run like that. Whoever's in, anybody can step up and fill in a position. Anybody can make a play. Jarvis Landry is a very, very, very important part of their offense, but even he last week didn't do all that much. So this isn't about one person. It's about the unit as a whole. If Austin Hooper has 2 catches and David Njoku has 2 catches and Jarvis Landry has 2 catches and Harrison Bryant has 2 catches and DBJ has 2 catches. I mean, again, it's 2 catches, but then you add them all up and it adds up to 20 catches. So again, it's not one player. It's everybody on this offense doing their part and making this thing run. And I think Odell was not about that. I think Odell thought that his individual impact would better the Browns offense rather than, them spreading the ball around. And that's not Kevin Stefanski's offense. That's not what Baker Mayfield's job is to do. And that's why Baker Mayfield didn't do it. Baker Mayfield did his job for the most part. And, it wasn't to Odell's satisfaction. And that's why on a 4-4 football team that had their biggest game of the season in front of them, Odell said, I'm done. It's tough and you move on.
Yeah. Well, here's what we don't know according to ESPN.com. Can the Browns build off Sunday's win and rekindle their 2020 formula? Time will tell. But I will say this, and I find this very interesting. Every time the Browns have an adversity that kind of backs them up under Kevin Stefanski, they seem to come out and be at their best. Kevin Stefanski had COVID for the playoff game against the Steelers last year. They came out and they won it. They were all beat up, missing pretty much everything against the Broncos on that Thursday night game a couple weeks ago. They come out and they win it. The whole thing last week with Odell and all the distractions that caused. They come out and they put together arguably their best game of the season against a Bengals team that, they manhandled the Ravens 2 weeks prior. Now they did lose to the Jets, but the Browns did to the Bengals what the Bengals did to the Ravens. So that kind of points me in the direction of they're in the neighborhood of rekindling that 2020 formula.
Yeah, this is a very good football team. I mean, when they're healthy and when they're running on also, they're a good football team. And I think a lot of that has to do with Baker Mayfield, again, not trying to force the ball to Odell, doing what he's built to do in this offense. I think it goes to the running game doing what they need to do. I think it goes to the defense being a little more aggressive. I don't think this Browns defense is very good if they're not aggressive. If they're passive and they're not getting after the quarterback, which sometimes you have to do against guys like Lamar Jackson. That's why I don't like the Browns' chances against the Ravens very much, because Lamar is going to run around and that defense is going to have its fits. But against these next two teams, they could be 7-4. I think that they should beat the Patriots. They should be able to get after Mac Jones. Offensively, Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb, or without Nick Chubb, that running game should do enough to get a win. So, yeah, I think that's the formula, is for the run game to take over, for Baker Mayfield to be efficient in the pass game. Again, doesn't have to do too much. Make the big plays when they're there. And then the defense got to be opportunistic, turning the ball over. So they're right. We don't know if that will continue, but I think it should. I think it should going forward.
Now they also come up with the final prediction as far as the record goes. They go 10-7. I think they're going to end up 11-6. I really do. I think they split with the Ravens. I don't think the Ravens will beat them twice. Remember, they play them on each side of the bye, and the Ravens have to play the Steelers in the middle. So I think they get one of the games against the Ravens, and I think they go 11-6 on the year. And if you pushed me and everything goes well, maybe they get 12 wins. I think that's the ceiling. I think the 12 wins is the ceiling right now for them. Yeah,
well, 12 wins would mean that they go 7-1 down the stretch, which would be quite tough. I'm going to lean more towards 10-7. I think that they get to 7-4. I think they beat the Patriots this weekend. I think they beat the Lions. If they can somehow beat the Ravens in that first game and be 8-4, then I'll start to talk with you about 12-5. But until then, it's tough. I think 10-7 is probably more realistic. That means they go 4-3 down the stretch. That means they go 5-2. No, I'm really bad at math. Anyways, all I know is that 11 wins. They go 6 and. I don't even want to get into it. Anyways, regardless,
they have to go 5-3 to get to 10 wins.
7.
I'm seeing they could go 6-2. You're going.
All right,
you're going 10-7.
Yeah, I'm going 10-7.
All right. Hayden Grove and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. On the other side of the break, we turn our attention more to the Browns getting ready for the Patriots Sunday down in Foxborough. We'll hear from Baker Mayfield and the challenges that this Patriots defense presents. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns getting ready to face the Patriots, both teams 5-4, very much in the middle of that AFC playoff picture. Baker Mayfield talked about the challenges of facing this Patriots defense.
Yeah, I mean, they're a big front. A lot of familiar faces, guys that have been there. Obviously, they added Matthew Judon in there. But it's going to be a physical game. We're about running the ball. Obviously, they know that. So I'd expect them to prepare to stop it. So it'll be a good matchup for us. And, we have to be able to continue at it. We might not hit early, but you gotta chunk away and see if those small runs turn into big ones later in the game.
And Hayden Grove, I think the Patriots are built a lot like the Browns. Big, physical, want to run the football. Multiple guys run the football. They take chances down the field, shots here and there. I think the Browns' talent level is better than the Patriots. I just do.
Yeah, no, I believe that too. And they're not. I've never been a Mac Jones fan. I won't be until he proves otherwise. I think that this, and they're two-headed monster of a backfield. Is hurt right now. I mean, I never wish injury on anyone, but this is a big chance for this Browns defense. And Baker Mayfield's right. They're a good defensive unit. They always will be. Bill Belichick is a defensive mastermind, and these guys again are big, strong, physical defense. But at the same time, I think it's for that reason. I think it's gonna be a low-scoring game. I think this is not going to be your high-scoring game. I don't think it's going to be your 41-35. I mean, maybe it'll stay in the 20s, but it's a big opportunity for the Browns to prove that they can do whatever they want in the run game, no matter who's back there. So I'm looking forward to seeing that offensive line work. I mean, I'm a kind of a football junkie, and I love watching that stuff. I love seeing a great offensive line take it to a big defensive line. And I think that's what they're going to do this weekend. I think it's going to be fun to watch because, again, this Browns offensive line is special, and it's just a pleasure to watch. So they have their hands full, but I have no doubt that they'll be able to get the job done. They're that good.
Well, here's something to kind of back up what you're saying. So since Wyatt Teller took over at right guard, Week 9 of 2019, the Browns ranked 3rd in the NFL in rush yards per game. You see it, 142.3, and they are rushing for an average of almost 5 yards a carry, 4.82. You see also the superlatives there. That kind of backs up what you're saying about the run game. And to be fair, it's that offensive line that's getting things done at the point of attack.
Yeah, and I'm never going to – I mean, again, Nick Chubb is a special level. He's a special runner. Kareem Hunt is a special runner. Dearness Johnson is a very good runner. But you ask any running back in the NFL, and they'll say, "I'm nothing without my offensive line." And I think that the Browns are the same way. If they're, Nick Chubb would still be a great runner, but he wouldn't be the league's second best runner and the best runner per average in the NFL. Kareem Hunt wouldn't be the same runner without that offensive line. So I give them a ton of credit for the way that they operate. And Wyatt is a huge part of that. Again, Wyatt is a guy that has graded week in, week out as one of the best offensive linemen in football. And he comes at it with a demeanor of joy and appreciation for playing a game. And he loves the city of Cleveland. And he's a hard worker, hard-nosed guy, and does it, he's a mauler. He mauls in that run game. He gets after. He loves it when it gets cold, and when defenders aren't ready for that Cleveland weather, he's ready to bring it on. So he's exactly what you want in Cleveland. Joel Bitonio is exactly what you want in Cleveland. And those guys, again, this is Browns fans for a long time have wanted the Browns to be a run-first football team, a hard-nosed AFC North football team. And I always kind of said, that's not the way the NFL is anymore. You got to throw the football. You got to let these guys go. And kind of like the Freddie offense I was around. I watched the Browns last year, and I said, okay, never mind. You can do it this way, and you should do it this way in Cleveland. And I love watching it week in and week out with the special runners they have, the special offensive line, Kevin Stefanski's scheme. It's a really, really fun thing to watch, and it fits Cleveland perfectly.
All right, let's take a look at how Pete Prisco from CBS Sports sees this one shaking out. He says he thinks that the Patriots win this one 27-21. Back-to-back road games. Patriots back home, first time in 3 weeks. Now, you need to point out, Patriots have not played well at home this year. They've played much better on the road. Browns defense is playing substantially better. I disagree with Pete Prisco, who I respect and think knows a whole lot about what he's talking about. I think the Browns will win this one, and I think the defense, again, gets after Mac Jones, probably creates a couple of turnovers. I, like you, don't think it's going to be a terribly high-scoring game. I think the Patriots are going to have a tough time scoring. Both Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, their two running backs, did not practice head injuries, so they're going through potentially getting cleared to play just like the Browns' two running backs are with the COVID issue. Both teams are are lacking or potentially lacking guys at important positions for them.
Yeah, and I'm not even putting Bill Belichick in the same realm as Matt Nagy. I mean, I don't think Matt Nagy's a very good coach at all. No disrespect, honestly, but his schemes don't work for Justin Fields, and Justin Fields has had to overcome them. And I think when you look back at that game with Justin Fields against the Browns, I think that's the exact same thing that the Browns should be doing against this New England Patriots team. The Browns have been very good against the run for the entirety of the year. And in that game, they got after Justin Fields like no other. So this is a big opportunity for this defense to really prove that, hey, we got another rookie in the house, Myles Garrett. I want to see 2 sacks out of him. I want to see them pick Mac Jones off. Mac Jones is not a guy that I really think you have to be scared of. I don't think you have to be scared of him. I did not like the fact the Patriots drafted him, and maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe he'll come out there and throw for 400 yards, and then I'll look like the idiot. But until then, I'm willing to stake my claim that the Browns are going to get after Mac Jones. And Justin Fields is a much better quarterback than Mac Jones, and the Browns made him look very, very pedestrian, very poor, actually, in his first NFL start. So Justin Fields has grown from there. I think that obviously facing Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels is no small feat, no small potatoes. It's tough to do. They're very good at scheming things up, and they're very good together. But I think the Browns should be able to do too much for the Mac Jones and for the Patriots to handle, and should get a win.
Yep, I agree, and I get the feeling that Myles Garrett may get one of those strip sack fumbles for the first time this year. It's coming. He's got to get a couple of calls when he's getting held by 2 people, but I think it's coming.
Look out for that ankle if he does.
All right, Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Hayden.
Always. Take care.
All right, Hayden Grove, make sure you read them. Pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com will join us. We'll continue to talk Browns. We will hear more from Baker Mayfield as he looks at what it's like to go against a Bill Belichick coach defense. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
Five and 4 Browns will face the 5-4 Patriots in Foxborough Sunday at 1 o'clock. Baker Mayfield talked about facing a Bill Belichick run defense and what he expects to see Sunday.
The mindset is it's always a game plan defense. You know, they're very versatile. They can do a lot of disguising, but the emphasis for them is stop what you're best at. So, going into it, we'd expect them to try and stop the run. and that to be the emphasis. So we'll see how they handle it with, obviously the news about our running backs. So we have to be prepared to react and adapt to whatever we're seeing.
Let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. And Tim, it's tough not knowing if you're going to have Nick Chubb, Demetric Felton. Dearness Johnson ran the ball well against the Broncos. How about going against Bill Belichick, less than 100% for this offense?
Well, I feel like with the running game and what they can do, the hope is for the Browns, you at least have Dearness Johnson available. If you don't have him, if he tests positive, then I don't know where the run game is. And then you find yourself in a situation very similar to last season when the Browns didn't have any of their receivers available to take on the Jets. We all know what happened there. But I think you need to hope that at least Dearness Johnson's available to go, because you don't want to go into this game against a Bill Belichick coach defense that's pretty much being a one-handed offense, and that being kind of the weaker half of your offense. Although the Browns passing game certainly took, what I thought was a leap forward on Sunday in Cincinnati. But this Patriots defense is good. We look at the numbers. They forced 10 turnovers in the last 4 games. They know how to create pressure. They know how to create confusion. As I kind of wrote in my preview on Monday about the Patriots, what do you need to know? He still makes some opposing quarterbacks see some ghosts. So Baker's going to kind of need to be on point in his film study, know what he's seeing. And, there may be a turnover that gets kind of schemed up, because that's good defense. You got a bunch of great pieces on there. Matt Judon has 9 sacks this season. J.C. Jackson's a very good corner. I like Kyle Duggar, the second-year safety. It's going to be tough, and it's just going to be, a lot of hoping for some good fortune on those COVID tests that you can hopefully get either Chubb or Felton back, so Dearness Johnson doesn't have to do all the work by himself on Sunday.
All right, so you touched on this a little bit. Sunday, do we take it as, Baker kind of flipped a switch and kind of got back at it without Odell, kind of the way it was last year? Or is it a one-game deal against a defense that was kind of torn apart by Mike White and the Jets?
That's what I think we're going to start to find out somewhat on Sunday. I mean, Baker playing well without Odell Beckham's not a surprise. I think we all kind of expected that that's how he was going to play, because that's how he's played, throughout his career. When Odell hasn't been on the field, especially the second half of last season, that's when he really took off and had those big numbers, those big playoff performances. He was certainly very good on Sunday. But again, when you look at just that Bengals defense, the week prior, they gave up 405 yards passing to Mike White, who was a rookie and never started a game in his NFL career, and they gave up a ton of points to the Jets. So you can take that to an extent, I think, with a grain of salt, but you got to also look at the things Mayfield did. He was on point like he hadn't been all season. Even before the shoulder injury, those throws he made, particularly the 2 to Donovan Peoples-Jones, probably 2 of his best throws of the entire season. And those are the best throws he certainly made since he injured that shoulder, since he started wearing the harness. So if he goes out against the Patriots, say they have to throw a lot and he throws for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, they win, then I think you could say they turn the corner. As long as he doesn't turn in a game where he has multiple turnovers, he throws 2-3 interceptions, I think you could be kind of comfortable. But it's certainly a case where I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah, and Baker Mayfield didn't throw a whole lot in practice today. It was kind of bothered by a non-related foot injury, so we'll see how that plays out as well. He again said it's nothing serious, just not quite where he wanted it to be and no need to rush it. We've talked about Nick Chubb, and I found this one really interesting. Nick Chubb recorded 3 rushes of 70-plus yards in his career. That's only 1 behind Jim Brown for most in Brown's history. You see the stat lines going against more of where he ranks in team history for those long runs. But, Tim, anytime you're mentioned in the same breath as 1 behind Jim Brown, you're doing some pretty amazing things as far as the running back skill set goes.
No question about it. I mean, Chubb is as physically gifted a back as there is in the NFL. I'm just always fascinated by some of the things he's able to do. That unique combination of power and speed. That was something that was really intriguing about him when the Browns picked him in the second round. Obviously, the concerns about the injury history were there, but the good news for the Browns is he's been pretty durable. He hasn't missed a lot of games, but he has been healthy. And, you know, that 70-yard touchdown run against Cincinnati, I think when he got past that first line of defenders was when you saw him turn on those afterburners that we've really only ever seen a couple of times. And it's on those big runs that some people said that was the fastest he ever looked. I thought that screen pass touchdown he had against Pittsburgh in the playoffs was quite honestly the fastest he's ever looked, but that was pretty close. And when you have a guy that big who's that much of a home run hitter because of his speed, it's a valuable weapon to have. Obviously, if he's not able to go Sunday against New England, it's going to be bad news for the Browns. But, you know, it doesn't take away from the fact how special he is, and that even if he misses a game, you know, he should be able to still rack up some tremendous numbers as he always has. And he showed again on Sunday just why he is as good as there is at his position in the NFL.
Well, you mentioned might not be able to go. Over the last 2 seasons, when the Browns are with Nick Chubb, their record is 13-6. Without Nick Chubb, 3-3. You see the point differential as well. But again, you know, as you look at it, Dearness Johnson filled in for the Broncos team with, you know, another 5-4 team in the NFL. And Dearness Johnson was able to get it done. But that, again, kind of illustrates with Nick Chubb out, Browns can still win. You just don't want it to be for any extended period of time.
No, and I think that's kind of the hope with Nick Chubb and, you know, what's going with COVID. I know Kevin Stefanski didn't reveal exactly, you know, what Chubb's condition is. I think that's first and foremost. You just want to hope these guys are fine, that they're healthy. Because we saw, you know, the difference, you know, Myles Garrett's case of COVID had the impact it had on him in the second half of last season. You're hopeful it doesn't happen for a guy like Chubb. You're hopeful he can come back pretty quickly and look like himself. But, you know, last season, obviously, Chubb missed a handful of games. And the one I point to, showing the Browns going to have success, they put up 32 points on the Colts without Nick Chubb. I know Baker had a pretty good game. The defense had a pick 6. They were pretty good when they needed to be without him. And when you look at this upcoming game against New England, this is not an explosive offense going up against. It's a defensive-minded team. You know, they're not going to give up a lot of points, but they're also not going to score a lot of points. So you just got to be able to take advantage of the chances you have, capitalize on a bunch of big plays. They might be a little harder to come by with Dearness Johnson versus Nick Chubb and Demetric Felton out there, but Johnson showed against the Broncos, who are also a very good defense, that, you know, if he's called upon, he can get the job done. And especially behind an offensive line where you got 4 of your top 5 guys healthy, and they look pretty good on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you mentioned the offensive line. Pro Football Focus ranking the offensive lines, and the Browns down to 4 now. Best graded Wyatt Teller. Again, Jedrick Wills, that grade, I would argue, you know, he was playing a couple of the games where he was graded low on one leg, basically. And I think they've slipped down to 4. So Cowboys 1, Chiefs 2, Buccaneers 3, Browns 4. Keep in mind, the Browns' offensive line has been really beat up. One of those games, they were playing James Hudson and Blake Hance at the 2 tackles. Jack Conklin's been out. Jedrick Wills has been out. So you have been banged up, and again, I would argue this offensive line has been really good. And even the guys that have stepped in spurts, like Blake Hance has played well when he's been called on.
Yeah, he definitely has. I know he had some, some struggles on Sunday against the Bengals, but that was a good defensive front he went up against with guys like Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. You know, I kind of figured that was a group that was going to get a couple sacks, and they did, but Hance for a large part has held his own. The big thing I think was Jedrick Wills coming back, from the ankle. I think he's looked very much more like himself the past couple games. He's been steady. You're not going to need him to be super tremendous because you have so much talent around him, particularly in the interior, which thankfully for the Browns, all those guys have been healthy all season. They've been able to go. And in particular, and now that you got Teller and Bitonio locked up, you got that middle, knowing the middle of the line's not going anywhere anytime soon. So, you're counting on this offensive line to pave holes for this running game and give Mayfield some time to throw in the play action. We saw those really come to fruition against the Bengals. And, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they go up against a New England team that is kind of middle of the pack in terms of run defense.
Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Kevin Stefanski will talk a little bit about the Patriots, and we'll zero in. Browns-Patriots, Sunday at 1 o'clock. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns and Patriots, 1 o'clock Sunday. Foxborough, a pair of 5 and 4 teams, both in need of a win. Kevin Stefanski talked about what he sees when he looks at the Patriots.
Big challenge this week, going against another 5 and 4 team, just like us, an AFC opponent, a really good football team, and we got to go on the road and play our best to try and get a win. They're very, very well coached, as you all know. I think just offensively, defensively, special teams, they're very sound. They're very physical. Their offense is a physical group. I think the quarterback is playing at a high level. Doesn't look like a rookie to me. They can play physical brand of football with a bunch of different running backs. They have guys on the perimeter that can make plays, that can make contested catches, some really good tight ends. So presents a big challenge. And defensively, they're very big, long, play a physical brand of football. They can play 5 on the line of scrimmage. They can get into a 4 down front. They can pressure. They play shell. So it's an impressive scheme that can show you multiple looks. And then special teams, which they've always done a great job with, have great players. They play hard, really good schemes. So a big week of preparation for us to get ready to go on the road.
And Tim, when I hear Kevin Stefanski describing the Patriots, it sounds like the way teams describe the Browns, only the Browns have a little bit higher talent level, I think. Maybe it's just me, but that's when I hear him talk about that, that's what I hear other teams say about the Browns.
I kind of agree with you. And when I look at the Patriots, the strength to me that stands out about that team is the secondary. I mean, they're number 1 in the NFL in interceptions. I talked earlier about J.C. Jackson. He had 2 against the Panthers. The offense isn't exactly explosive, but they're solid, especially inside the 5-yard line when they can just give the ball off to Damian Harris, and he is just tremendous inside the 5-yard line. I actually looked up his numbers. Basically, every touchdown he's had in the last 5 games has come from inside the 5-yard line. So if they get inside that area, the Browns got to be watching out for Harris. He's a physical running back. He's a guy I kind of got my eye on as a key to this game. But he mentioned Mac Jones, and I know I'm looking at his numbers right now: 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, completing 68% of his passes this season for 2,135 yards. He's been the best, I think, from the beginning to now among the rookie quarterbacks. I know guys like Justin Fields have shown some flashes throughout his rookie season, but Jones has been pretty consistent. He's been solid, to say the least. So the Browns are going to need to kind of try to confuse him a little bit and see if you can turn that front loose and really kind of make things difficult for him, speed him up, because we saw the Saints do that earlier this season. I mean, they forced a couple takeaways from Mac Jones. If you can pressure the young quarterback, give him some different looks, try to confuse him. And more importantly, I think if you get a lead on this team, you're going to be in a good shape.
I would agree. The other thing I would say about Mac Jones, get after him, because you don't have to worry about him beating you with his legs. I mean, he's probably a little bit more athletic than people thought when he was coming out. But if it's a foot race between he and Myles Garrett or he and Jadeveon Clowney, I'm taking Clowney or Garrett every time.
Me too. I mean, the thing I see about Mac Jones that is interesting to me, we know he's not a super athletic guy, but he can make some throws. He's not going to make them all the time. They're not going to ask him to make some throws, but he can make them. He can certainly stress you at times with his arm, so the Browns got to be mindful of that and just kind of watch out, because he's got some ability to do some special things, I think.
How do you think this one goes? What do you think happens in this Browns-Patriots matchup?
Well, I have my bold predictions coming tomorrow morning in the newsletter, and a lot of it I think depends on the health of the running backs. If at least Dearness Johnson is able to go, I think the Browns can win. If Chubb's able to go, the Browns certainly can win. The key is going to be minimizing turnovers for the offense. I think the Patriots will at least get one. I look at it just the way Bill Belichick schemes things up, how good that secondary is. They'll scheme a takeaway somewhere in there. I think he's just that good at creating those problems. The key for the Browns is going to be, can they get impact plays when against, a sound team like New England? Can they force some takeaways? Can they get, a big play on offense? Can they catch the Bill Belichick defense off guard? Because we've seen how good he can be against some really good quarterbacks throughout the season. I know he really frustrated Tom Brady when they came to New England back in week 4 of the season. I know the rain helped in Foxborough, but it's just going to come down to, again, just can they win the turnover battle? Can they make enough plays? And then can they get enough out of the running game to not have to have Baker Mayfield carry the day against a Bill Belichick defense that is good against the pass, that is good at taking the passes away with the interception, and that can scheme up and really make life miserable for teams who are one-dimensional.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. As always, Tim, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
You got it. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good week.
You too, Tim Bielik. Make sure you read him in the pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you again tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Scheduled guest Jeff Risdon from brownswire.com, Ashley Baystock from cleveland.com, and the Plain Dealer. That is tomorrow at 4. We'll see you then. Have a good night, everybody.